Welcome to the Equinety Podcast, where horse owners just like you share their incredible Equinety stories and how Equinety is changing their horses' lives. Whether you're searching for something to give your performance horse better focus, faster recovery, and more stamina, or in the extreme case where all hope seems lost, give your horse what it needs to help heal at a cellular level, you'll find it here. So jump in on today's episode to hear how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Now, welcome your host, John Dowdy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We're swinging out into Colorado. We've got Tracy Ebmeyer on the call this week. Tracy, welcome to the Equinety Podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot, John. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And I, as always, appreciate you taking the time to share your story here. And I think it'd be best maybe, why don't we just start off giving a little bit of your background, what you do on your farm with your horses.
Sure, yeah. Well, I've got two horses of my own on the farm, and right now one's 2 years old and one's 3 years old. They're sister brother, and right now I'm just training the 3-year-old to just starting out just basic trail riding, and goal is to get him team whooping here by next spring. Mm-hmm. And the little 2-year-old, I just kind of pony her along with during the trail rides that we do on the property, and do daily groundwork with her.
Yeah, just kind of getting them prepped and used to the things to come.
Yeah, exactly. That's just basic horse groundwork fundamentals.
Yep. And then how many horses do you have on the farm total?
We have 12.
Mm-hmm.
All quarter horses, yep.
Gotcha,
yep.
Yeah. So with this 2-year-old, which is what we're going to be talking about, tell us what was going on with the development of this 2-year-old and the issue that you saw coming along.
Yes, sir. I noticed that when she was around 8 months old, her one of her front hooves wasn't kind of forming right, and it was kind of becoming sort of clubby a little bit. So we tried some correcting techniques and whatnot, but still nothing kind of really transformed from that. So I did put her on some other supplements and whatnot to try to help get that hoof growing, but nothing seemed to really work. So I happened to see one of your ads there for Equinety, and well, shucks, I'll just try to give it a try and see what would happen. And she's been on the product for about 6 months now, and that hoof is really starting to grow out really nicely, take shape like all the other three.
Yeah. Now, of course, without mentioning names of other supplements and things, how long were you trying these other products to try to get this hoof to grow correctly?
It had been about 8 to 9 months or so. So it was, a few cycles of the trimming cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure. So for quite some time, actually.
Sure. And then you saw our ad, and were you like,
yes,
hey, that's what I've been looking for? Were you a bit skeptical? What was your...
Well, I was skeptical like anything else, and I didn't really, I hadn't really heard of the product before, but I kept seeing the ads for it, and I was like, I want to get hemming and hawing about it, and well, I thought I'd just give it a shot. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a 3-month try. And so we're 6 months into it now, and things have really transformed for her. She used to not be able to walk on the gravel. It was pretty painful to watch her try to walk down the road.
Yeah.
But now she steps right out. So I'm really impressed.
Yeah. So in addition to the kind of the clubby foot, obviously some very thin soles then, which is why she was a bit ouchy.
Yes, sir. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
I had her x-rayed and whatnot when she was about 9 months old, and that there was so that coffin bone wasn't at the right angle. So yeah, things have really come around for her.
Yeah, and we've had quite a few people that in breeding farms and things like that use our Equinety Horse Excel for development purposes. And for those of you tuning in for the first time, maybe this is the first time or second time you're kind of hearing about the product. Maybe you've seen us around online and now tuning into this podcast. What this product actually is, the Equinety Horse Excel, it's 100% pure amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. And what it's doing is it's giving the body what it needs to release the necessary hormones, which then the body uses for repair and recovery. So this is why it helps in so many ways. And it could be, the hoof, it could be top line, it could be recovery and stamina focus, soft tissue repair. I mean, the list goes on in, navicular, ring bone. And I tell people it's not a miracle supplement. but it sure does some miraculous things. And it's pretty amazing. So we're talking with Tracy Ebmeyer here out of Colorado. And so you've now been using this, you said, for about 6 months?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how close is this clubby looking foot now looking compared to the other healthy hooves?
Almost exact, I'd say. Yeah, there's no more, it was dishing out a little bit there before. Then we were having to take off, the front of the toe and then file down and trim that to try to get like a flatter wall. There's no more of that whatsoever. And the diameter has changed, looks more even. And her straightness, like I said, is nice and straight from top to bottom. And it's the same size as the other foot now. So,
oh, wow. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Good news.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, too, it's important to point out, as I mentioned, as I was kind of describing the product and how it helps in all of these other areas, but the body's not going to, put extra top line on a horse that already has top line, or it's not going to make, it's not going to add all this extra weight if it's doesn't need weight, or if the hooves are in perfect condition. I mean, in this one, you've got 3 hooves that are basically doing what they're supposed to do, and then the one that's the problem, and so it's just fixing that one, which is pretty unique, I would say.
It's very unique. Yeah, I've just been kind of tickled just to watch it all kind of transform, because like I said, I was kind of skeptical, and then just to actually help this little girl out, it's been such a blessing.
Yeah, and everything else, I mean, she's fine everywhere else. It was just really the hoof that was the issue?
Yes, sir. Yeah. She really didn't have, she's real mindful. She's always on focus. She's really super smart, and didn't have any other health issues whatsoever, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I haven't really noticed anything else besides the hoof.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Everybody. Yeah.
Well, and because the thing is, it's, when we run a lot of our ads, we try to show before and afters. And so, the most extreme things that we can run are like hooves. I mean, that's pretty obvious, or weight gain, or, a dull coat to a shiny coat. And so sometimes people look at that and say, oh, well, it's a hoof supplement or it's a weight gain supplement. But it's not any of those per se. I mean, it doesn't really fit into those categories because, again, we're giving the horse what it needs to help repair itself. And so you could have 50 horses with 50 different things going on. And since we're giving the body what it needs to release its own hormones, then it's that horse that's customizing its own needs. So that's what makes it so unique. That's pretty
it's kind of antibiotically taking care of itself,
right?
The way it's needed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would have to assume that you're probably not using any other hoof supplements now. No, sir. But I do biotin, and I know that that. Yeah, that's important.
But yeah, exactly. But I also do another all around supplement that but not specifically targeted like this.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would say one of the things that this is also helping balance the horse from the inside out, so it helps with these other products as far as absorptions and things like that.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I don't have any other questions for you. Is there anything that you might say? Let's say somebody's tuning in and they're like, okay, well, I've got a similar situation, or I'm still a little bit skeptical. Is there anything that you would have to say to them that might get them off the fence to give it a try?
Yeah, I guess for me, I didn't really talk to anybody else about it, and I wish I would have, and that had been using the product. And I wish I would have started it a little earlier, to be honest with you, because we went through, some time there where I was like, well, what am I going to do with this little pony? You know what I mean? So, and I told myself, I said I'd give it a 3-month trial, and just to see, because nothing else was really working. And I'm certainly glad I did, because it's really helped her out. And so I think it's worth a shot for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's great.
Yep.
Well, Tracy Ebmeyer out of Colorado, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story here on the Equinety Podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of the Equinety Podcast. For more information on purchasing Equinety, be sure to visit our website at teamequinety.com, where you'll also find product information as well as more testimonials on how others have seen amazing results by implementing Equinety into their horse's supplement regime. We'll have more stories on how Equinety is helping horses worldwide right here on a future episode of the Equinety Podcast.